Yeah, really hitting across the ball on your forehand. That's the approach is good. Your technique on the forehand needs a lot of work. And it might feel minor, but it's a huge issue. You have a lot of pushing motion instead of hitting through the ball. And it's hurting your quality, but more importantly, it's hurting your placement and allowing these rallies to last much longer than they need to. Because a lot of your shots have a tendency to drift toward the middle of the table and not put him under any pressure. So really, really focus on not coming across the ball as much. Like that one was really, really bad as you hit across it. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Louie here, and welcome to a brand new VOD review. Today we're going to be looking at a match from Christine, and just as a final notice, Master Roshi, I can't look at your match yet. Please take a look at the DM I sent you. I'll give you one more week, and then if I still don't hear back from you, I'm just going to assume that you are not interested in the VOD review anymore. Please get back to me as soon as you can. Anyway, today we're going to be looking at the match from Christine. She is using the Nitaku Arrestor. It is an oversized defensive blade, Donic Akuta Pink with Victus Curl P1 on the backhand. Very, very standard defensive setup. No complaints from me there. USATT rating is currently 1607, so we've got an upper intermediate level player, borderline advanced. Context, she has been playing table tennis since 2017. No previous sport experience, which makes improvement quite difficult, especially for the first few years. Weirdly, I always enjoyed playing against long pips even when I was a beginner. I think it's because of the slower pace and greater variety. So in 2021, decided to try playing with long pips, but I found it too hard because my fundamentals were still developing. In 2024, I tried again, but this time specifically for chopping on my backhand. And I think defending suits my personality, and I now enjoy matches way more than before. It's clear that I'm still going through a transition period. It's hard to undo my attacker timing / positioning, but I'm actively working on this. Goals are to continue enjoying the sport with my wonderful husband, Flips, who is also a member of the server, and friends for a long time, which means keeping things fun and injury-free. Keep improving until I can't anymore. Aspire to hit 2200 level in my lifetime. Okay, practice frequency 4 to 6 times a week, 2 hours per session. That's excellent. This is to get to a 2200 level. You have to maintain this for basically as long as you can. If you were just trying to get to 2000, I'd say okay, maybe you play 2 or 3 times a week, a few hours per day, and you'll get to 2000. But to get to 2200, I keep in mind 2350 or in the 2300s is women's national team already. So this is a very, very, very strong level. So you need this level of practice to get to that level. So it's definitely doable, especially with this. This is very good. Mix of multi-ball, drills, and matches. Private lesson 1 time per month. Club leagues 1 to 2 times per month. And 5 tournaments per year. This is absolutely excellent. So here's the match. It was February of this year, very recent match, and it was in Canada. Timing is mostly too early on everything because of the transition from being attacker. This is the one thing I'm working on beside fundamentals. Not sure what to do with loose balls on my backhand. In practice, I'm trying to learn to twiddle or hit with the pips, but both are really difficult. I'll take a look and I'll give you some options. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Anyway, I hope you all enjoy the video. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Our protagonist is the player on the close side of the table with the long pips playing defensively. And as usual, I've watched just like the first game or so to get a feel, and I will point out things as I see them. Alright, so I know it's the very first point, but I'm sure you're aware. This ball has to be hit, even as a defensive player. That ball, it looks like you thought about going for the attack and then you hesitated. And you mentioned it in your context, but you're struggling to decide whether to just hit through it with the pips or twiddle and loop on the backhand. And the more, I'd say, like, textbook correct thing to do here is to twiddle and just rip that ball with the inverted rubber, because it's so high and so loose that it should just be a winner. And in terms of getting that shot more consistent, one, it's confidence. You just have to, when you see a ball like that, no hesitation, no care in the world. If you miss, you twiddle, you rip that ball hard, accelerate on your backhand. If it misses, it misses, and just drill it down in practice. Or really, yeah, that's the main thing. It's just confidence, going for the shot, and then yeah, just drilling it in practice until it is super stable. But then this is just a silly mistake. You might be hitting across the ball a little bit on your forehand. That's fine. You were not expecting the flip. That's fine. Nice. Yeah, same. This is just like it being early in the game. You're trying to figure out what he tends to do, so I'll give you a break. But if you do that serve again and you're not ready to chop, then it would be an issue. That's fine. That's really nice. Very nice. Nice. That's good. Yeah, forehand technique. I want to see it from the other side, but you might have an issue with coming across the ball. That's fine though. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Not bad, not bad. So you are coming across the ball quite a bit on your forehand. What I mean by that is, let me try and catch one. Here's a good one. Here's a good example. You are pushing and coming across your body as you play the shot instead of driving through the ball. And it's making the shot very unstable, which is why you've made so many. I think the first game, almost every point you missed was just an unforced error on the forehand. So your wrist here is too high as you're making contact with the ball. And it's almost as if you're coming across the ball like a windshield wiper instead of hitting through the ball. So what I'll say, and I'll put it in your notes, is lower your wrist more so the tip of your paddle is not pointing up this way, but as you start the shot, the tip of your paddle should be pointing directly to the side toward the barrier. Or even, not everyone does this, but or even down slightly so that you have a little bit of hook, which is very, very nice as a defensive player, basically causing the ball to hook very wide to your opponent's forehand. And then the second thing is, I'd say be super conscious of making sure your paddle doesn't come across your body or your shoulder. It should be going towards your left eyebrow, maybe finishing a little bit past your left eyebrow, but following a very direct plane forward and backwards. So just something to keep in mind. And then the other thing that I'll say is, until you're at 1800, 1900 and higher, the second you land a very, very good chop like this, they're not going to loop the ball again. It's very, very rare that you will land a chop against their topspin and they will continue to loop. So you just have to get used to, before you, as you're improving, is the second you connect on a very, very good chop like this, make sure you're looking up, watching your opponent, and expecting that you're going to get a loose ball to hit. And this is just mental. I'm sure if you knew exactly where he was playing, you could connect to the shot. But you're still in the defensive mindset as he plays this ball. And really, that's another loose one that can just be put away. When I did my ratings video, there was a clip, or the last little bit of the video was me playing against a very good chopper. and there's some points where he rips his backhand. So let me just try to find one. Here we go. This is a very good point. So he's a very, very good defensive player, and you can actually just pull up this match, and it's on this video, and it's like 5 minutes of us just playing, or like 3 minutes or so. But just look at his approach, not necessarily in the rallies, because the rallies get pretty crazy, but just on the serve and the serve return, his timing and his approach. But specifically what I want to point out here is the way that he approaches my weak balls. So he is 100% a modern defender. If I loop this ball, he is going to chop. But the second I give him a loose ball, it's automatic. There's no hesitation. Look how quick the twiddle happens. And bang. And he's ready to rip that ball. And then we play the point out, and we have some good rallies. But again, there is absolutely no hesitation. Even if I had looped this ball, he had chopped it, and then I had pushed, it's the same thing. Oh crap, I can't loop. He's ready for that immediately, and there's no hesitation. And he goes for the shot. So that's sort of the approach that you need against these loose balls, just for context. That's really, really nice. Nice. Good serves. Nice. Very good. Yeah, this point is a little bit backwards. So, everything, this is fine. This ball needs to be put away. And then you don't have to worry about all the other stuff that happened in the rally. Again, it comes down to you're playing someone that is a good player, but they're not like a professional. They're not crazy good. And so the second you land a very good chop, you just have to be very conscious of, I just played a very good chop, and then know that he's not going to loop that ball. But the second you push several in a row, and then he loops, now suddenly you're getting ready to attack and counter loop. When really, if anything, this is the ball that you see he's getting ready to loop. Now you should be getting your right leg in front and getting ready to slow the game down and play defensively. So, and I think you know how to play the shot, you know how to chop, etc. But your approach is a little bit backwards. That's fine. That's fine. But again, you're not ready to chop. So you have to trust, especially as a defensive player, you have to work your footwork a lot, and then you have to trust your footwork. So on a ball like this, you push, you have to assume this ball is going to get hit. And by this point, you should already, my color changed. You should already be away from the table, ready to chop. And if you go far back like this with your right leg forwards, you'll be able to react out to the forehand and chop, and also still have a very stable chop on the backhand side without having to kind of react and play this counter loop. So basically it just comes down to decisiveness as you're playing. Or if you are certain that off of this push, he's going to loop to your forehand, and you know it's going to be an easy loop that you can counter loop, then you need to be ready for that counter loop immediately. But you're kind of caught in between here, where you push, he loops, you're not really sure what he's doing, so you're not in position. And so it's that causes kind of this uncomfortableness. That's fine. Yeah, really hitting across the ball on your forehand. The approach is good. Your technique on the forehand needs a lot of work. And it might feel minor, but it's a huge issue. You have a lot of pushing motion instead of hitting through the ball. And it's hurting your quality, but more importantly, it's hurting your placement and allowing these rallies to last much longer than they need to. because a lot of your shots have a tendency to drift toward the middle of the table and not put him under any pressure. So really, really focus on not coming across the ball as much. Like that one was really, really bad as you hit across it. Now the serve returns, you're just very, very early. I'll pull back my own match again. Just watch some of the serve returns. Let me see if I can find some good ones. Yeah, look at the approach on the serve returns. I found a good one here. So look how late. So normally you'll hear coaches say top of the bounce, off the bounce, very, very early. And you mentioned it in your own context. You're aware that you're too early on some of the balls, but you are really, really early on the serve return. As a defensive player, you really have to let the ball bounce and take your time. The way I would describe it is if you were, I've given this analogy to some students before, and I think it applies to you as well. If you are messing around with someone, like you're just playing a practice partner, you've played for 3 hours, you're exhausted, and you're just messing around at the end of practice, and the practice partner just gives you a goofy serve and you're trolling, like you're not even trying to do anything with quality. Maybe you're thinking, maybe I'll give a snake, or I'll hit this from under the table so he can't see my contact, or something like that. Your approach, your mentality when you're doing that is actually very good, because you'll always let the ball bounce and let it come very long, and you'll notice you'll never miss someone's serve. You will never, ever, ever miss someone's serve when you're messing around. And then the second you try and you rush, you will miss the serve. You have to have the approach that, not that you're trolling, but that you're really going to let the ball bounce the same way you would let it bounce as if you were trolling, where like the timing is almost as if you could have played a snake on the ball, especially as a defensive player. You can really, really let the ball bounce. Even when the serves themselves are quick, you can take it while it's falling a little bit instead of having to rush into the shots. And look how far back, just for context, look how far back you have to go against these loops, and then you have time to react, and it's not so much pressure that you're going to be under. So just on the serve returns that you're rushing, my comment would be to take your time more, especially something like this. Really let the ball bounce. And again, more decisiveness. Do you want to loop or do you want to chop? That's fine. That's good. Again, you're hitting way across the ball on the forehand, so it's not stable. This one is a pretty big example. Your elbow is not stable as you're playing the shot. Timing is very early. Yeah, even in warm-up, you're hitting across it a little bit. That's really good. Really good. And then that ball has to be hit. That's fine. That's fine. That's very good. Yeah. Technique on the forehand. Okay. That's good. That's very good. Yeah, early. Early and indecisive. So again, as a defensive player, you have a lot of options. You don't necessarily have to do one specific shot against this loop, but you have to know what you want to do. So you push long to his forehand. You know at this point that his loop's going to come out to your forehand, and you just have to know, okay, is his loop weak and you are immediately ready to counter loop this ball, or are you going to be ready to chop immediately and you're already far back away from the table ready to chop? But it's not something that you can decide on the fly, and it's not something that you can purely react to. You have to anticipate and know what you want to do. And I think the reason that you're uncomfortable on a lot of these balls is because you lack the anticipation. On to game 3. Let's keep watching. Yeah, same. Footwork, and then again hitting across the ball on your forehand. That's fine. Yeah. This was better because you knew that you wanted to counter loop. So like, you pushed, he looped, and it looked like you were actually ready for this ball. Like you knew you wanted to counter loop. You were prepared for it immediately. Like this is perfect. But you're hitting way across the ball. Your wrist is so high as you're playing. And then it's subtle, but look at the distance between your elbow and your body. It's fine when you start, and then that distance changes and your arm pushes way out as you're playing the forehand instead of rotating. And it's not even a matter of coming forwards versus coming up. You're just not rotating through the shot. So the forehand needs a lot of work, which I think is your biggest issue right now. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. No. Okay. Yeah. There are times when, for whatever reason, you're not in the right position. You chopped, he pushes your chop, and you have to push again. As a defensive player, that is impossible to avoid. It will happen sometimes. But you need to minimize how much it happens as much as possible, because it's happening a lot. And so you're getting a lot of loose balls that you're not able to take advantage of because you're not anticipating. You have to know your opponent. You have to understand that until a very high level, again, if you play a very good chop, he's not going to loop. And you have to be prepared for those loose balls and put them away immediately. So this ball right here was very high. Hang on, not this point. This ball, not this ball, that's fine, but this ball was very high. I mean, it's like, I lost it in the camera. It's very, very high over the net. It's very loose. So this ball you could have just ripped and played a winner, but you chopped. This ball as well, very, very high over the net. I can't see it, but it's like somewhere right here. And again, that should be a winner. But instead, you're very, very, very passive. And so this kind of tentativeness is costing you a lot of points. That's fine. That's good. That's really, really good. Nice return. Great idea. Yeah, biggest issue is your technique on the forehand. You're losing. You would be winning 2-0, like 4-1 or 5-2 if it weren't for the technique issues on your forehand. So everything else I'm saying, that was your best one so far. That's really nice. Yeah. Everything is just, your forehand is your biggest hole in your game right now. The chops are good. Your approach is good on many of them. I'm criticizing some of them because to get to a very advanced level, there are other things you need to work on. But the biggest hole in your game is your forehand. Every mistake that I'm seeing is something that has nothing to do with being a defensive player. It's just the fundamentals on the forehand. Even in ready position, your wrist is very, very high. Yeah, and the hitting across the ball is preventing you from handling heavy spin. The second there's any sort of quality on the ball, because your wrist is up and you're pushing instead of rotating, all that spin bites and your shot misses out. The serves are very good. Serves are very, very good. Will we take those? Nice. Very, very nice. Your approach is good. Your approach is above your level. Your forehand is holding you back. Yeah, there's not enough quality on the ball. And it's not a physical strength thing, it's your technique. Nice serves. Really nice serves. Yeah. Okay, so other than the forehand missing, this is kind of what I'm talking about. Your approach here is technically speaking fine. At the level you're at right now, to beat an opponent like this, all you need to do right now is what you're currently doing with better execution. So like, if you had played this point exactly the way you played it, and just happen to connect on the last forehand, then you obviously win. However, to get to that next level, to get to 1800 and then 2000 and then 2200, even at 2000, the 2000 would have won the point several shots before you went for the winner. They probably would have gone for the loop right here. They definitely would have gone for the loop right here, because again, this ball is almost the same height as your head. It's very, very loose. And then this ball, they would have gone for it too, but you had other opportunities that maybe wouldn't have been as difficult. And then same here. Again, it's not that the approach is wrong. You can chop as a defensive player, but your opponent is not looping. And really, you only need to be chopping like this against someone that is consistently looping 3, 4, 5 balls in a row. And right now, you need to work on your forehand and get it more stable against the loose balls. And also practice twiddling and getting more stable on the back end against loose balls so that you have that shot in your arsenal. That way, when you're at the higher level and you're chopping, and they give you the loose balls, you'll also have those shots that you can just play winners on. Yeah, this ball needs to be hit. Like I've kind of said, technically speaking, there's nothing inherently wrong with the chop as a defensive player, but I think you need more repetition looping these loose balls. So you can kind of get in the habit of just winning points like that and only having to chop against the loops. And then again, it's a little bit backwards. Like if you're going to chop, this is the ball that you should be chopping. This is the ball where you should be back here getting ready to chop. Or if you're going to counter loop it, it should be something that you knew you were going to counter loop immediately instead of being caught in between. But again, the bigger issue here is you're coming way across your body on all these forehands. Look at how your wrist is. You're coming way across the ball. Put it in slow motion. He loops that ball. Again, I wish you had chopped it, but really far across your body on the forehands, which is why you can't handle the heavy spin. Yeah, you have it's almost mental. It's like the second you see someone go for a backhand loop, or at least with him, the second you see backhand loop, for some reason your mindset changes from defensive player, chopper, to I'm gonna block / counter loop. That's good. Forehand looked a lot better there as well. I probably don't need to watch much more. Nice point, nice point. Again, it's all coming back to the forehand. We'll watch a little bit more just to see if there's anything else worth pointing out. Yeah, it's a lot of the same. Yeah, it's for whatever reason, the second that he goes for a backhand loop, it's like you're no longer a defensive player. You have so much more time than you think. The second that you chop and you see that he's looping, give yourself time. You trust your footwork. Go away from the table and get ready to chop. Or again, if you're positive that he's looping right here and you are positive that you want to counter loop that ball, there can't be this hesitation. You need to go for the shot with more confidence. But aside all of that, the reason that you can't go for the shot is because you hit across the ball and your wrist is really, really high. So the second he gives you some quality or some spin, you're going to pop it out because you don't have any rotation. You don't have any way to counter with your own top spin and keep the ball stable. And then again, when the shot does land, it's going to drift toward the middle again because you're hitting across the ball, causing the ball to hook this way. I think I've seen enough. Let me go ahead and type up your notes, and I will be back. All right, I've got my notes for you. It's simple notes, but this is stuff that's going to take a lot of time to work on. So really try to hone this stuff down and get it super good. And then I do want to see another match from you in the future, because a lot of your game is already very good in terms of your approach as a defensive player. But firstly and most importantly, the forehand technique needs a lot of work. Actually, I'm going to type one more note. Okay, so you are coming very far across the ball on your forehand, and the technique does need work. It might feel minor, it might not seem like a huge deal, but it is severely holding your game back. So, like I mentioned, keep your wrist down instead of having it pop up, so the edge of your racket should not be pointing to the ceiling. And instead of pushing with your arm and like making your elbow go from bent to straight, the amount of bend that you have in your elbow should be almost completely consistent throughout the whole shot. The amount of bend in your arm shouldn't go from bent to straight. It should be a consistent distance, again, throughout that whole shot. And then when you finish, try to keep it near or slightly past your left eyebrow, and make sure the racket follows a linear path. So this will allow you to handle the heavy spin and quality from your opponent without the balls popping out, because you had a lot of mistakes here. This will also allow you to eventually develop a stable counter loop, and this will allow your own attacks against loose balls or underspin to be much more stable, and as an added side effect, the placement will be a lot better. So really focus on this. This is your biggest issue by far, and we need to get this fixed. Second is your approach in general tends to be backwards. There's a lot of balls that you could have or should have attacked that you pushed, and there's a lot of balls that you could or should have gone back and chopped that you instead tried to block or counterattack. So, as the notes say, ready to attack loose balls. You're a defensive player, but the best defensive players are the ones that put the point away the second they get an opportunity. If you play a very good chop, not just a push, not a dink, when you genuinely play a chop, and it's a good chop, they're almost certainly going to push that ball back. So anytime you play a good chop, you have to mentally be aware of the fact, like, oh, hello, I just played a really good chop. And because you're aware of that, you'll mentally be ready to hit the next ball. Just understand that you play a good chop, that is going to give you the opportunity to hit. You don't have enough repetition on these opportunities to where you can go for it via pure muscle memory. So we need to get it to that point ASAP, to where, like in the clip I showed you, it's just automatic. You play a good shot, for whatever reason you get a loose ball, it's automatic. You don't have this hesitation. You just go for the shot and win the point. And then in the same vein, when you push or chop and they do loop, know what you want to do. If you're certain that the ball is going to come to your forehand and you know it's going to be pretty weak and you want to counter loop, one, we need to fix the technique so that you can do this shot, but two, you need to immediately be ready for that shot, and again, there should be no hesitation. But generally speaking, for the ones where your opponent loops, for whatever reason you played a shot and they looped it and they just throw it up with spin, especially if that loop has good quality, these should be the ones where you do go back and play your chops. Play a good chop, because then that will give you the loose ball, and then that loose ball is your opportunity to win the point, or the chop will be so spinny that they just dump it into the net. And actually, I'll move this note up because it's kind of in the same context. I didn't see you go for a single forehand chop the whole match, and I think if you don't have this ball or this shot in your arsenal, it's something that you should learn to develop. One way to do it is you loop two, like when you're practicing with someone, loop two balls, and then after the second loop, go back, let them loop, and you chop two balls. I'll write out the drill for you. Yeah, and this is just cross court. Two forehands, cross court, chop, two forehand, cross court, practice partner loops. After second chop, practice partner pushes, you loop the push, and repeat. Hopefully that makes sense. And then finally, let the ball bounce much more on serve returns. Go back to the analogy I gave you during the match review about the timing, mentality, or approach that you'd have when messing around or trolling. Obviously, you're not going to actually be messing around or trolling, but that kind of mindset, that late mentality, where instead of taking the ball while it's rising, as a defensive player, you can take it after the top of the bounce. You can take it while it is falling. And that should almost be a default as a defensive player on the serve returns. So that's going to do it for this serve review. I hope that that was helpful, and to everyone watching at home, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then make sure to leave it a big thumbs up, and if you are interested in free coaching, or you just want to talk table tennis or hang out, then make sure to join the Pong Connect Discord server, where I have got tons of information on that. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all again so much for watching, and until next time.